So this video is talking about moral development. So we already talked about in class this story about Heinz and his wife that's dying of cancer and whether he should steal the drug or not that's overpriced. And if you remember in class, we went and talked about what you would do, but we also talked about what do you think a 9-year-old would do. And then I showed you a couple of videos from my own children at various points in their life and what they think. By the way, I did actually go and interview Aiden. I did a better job summarizing the story. And we got his answer and what he thinks. And so I actually put that on here as well. So you'll find underneath this video is Aiden's video. So if you'd like to check that out, you can. So what I want to talk about is how does moral development evolve? So there are, as you guessed it, stages. So first off, remember that this is Lawrence Kohlberg. He's the guy that actually came up with this idea of moral development and that we evolve over time in what we think is right and wrong. So he had 3 stages in his stage theory. So the first stage, according to Kohlberg, is this pre-conventional stage. So pre-conventional morality is before the age of 9. So keep in mind when we go to Trojan Tots, you are not going to be able to ask that moral question to obviously the freshmen or the sophomores, because first of all, they're not going to understand the question, and secondly, they're not going to be able to vocalize their answer. But it doesn't mean moral development isn't occurring. They're learning right from wrong. So up until the age of 9, pre-conventional morality is going to more focus on their self-interest. They're going to do things at this age to either avoid a punishment or to gain a reward. So for example, with Kohlberg's example of should Heinz steal the drug, remember that the point is not whether they say yes or no, but the point is why. So for example, somebody in pre-conventional morality could say, no, I don't think Heinz should steal the drug because he might go to jail. Or they could say, hey, yes, I think Heinz should steal the drug because then his wife will love him more. Okay? Both of them would fit into this pre-conventional morality where it's more about self-interest. What's in it for me? Now, as we progress in early adolescence, we're going to move on to conventional morality. So conventional morality is when we obey rules because they're rules. And either it's a social rule or it's a legal rule, but it's a very strict rule follower. For example, I can say that I think my son Gabriel is probably in this stage. He is a big rule follower, particularly even like in board games and things. You have to follow the rules, Mom. You can't change the rules. He doesn't get that, right? So conventional morality for Kohlberg's little scenario with Heinz, maybe you would have somebody that would say that they shouldn't steal the drug because stealing is against the law. Or maybe they would say, yes, Heinz should steal the drug because maybe his friends and family will, love him more because, he saved his wife. That's conventional morality. So you are following strictly the rules because that's what the rule says. That's what you should do. Now, if you keep going, you eventually move on to post-conventional morality. So post-conventional morality is late adolescence through adulthood. So Kohlberg basically, kind of like Piaget, basically said that our moral development stops when you're a teenager. Doesn't mean that you don't figure out more of what's right and wrong, but he said in post-conventional morality, we're judging actions more based on whether they're right based on our own ethical principles. So we kind of develop our own set of ethics and we judge things based off from that. So a good example of this that is not related to Heinz is like the civil rights movement of the 60s. So if you remember back to the 60s, they had all these segregation laws, right? So blacks one way, whites another. That was the law. And there was a lot of people that didn't necessarily agree with it, but they followed it because that was the law. But think about all those protesters and those people that went and broke the law. Why? Because they knew in their heart, they knew that based on their own ethical principles, that the law was wrong. Okay, now obviously that's a very, great, clean-cut, easy way. What about in the case of Heinz? Well, in the case of Heinz, what would happen is that somebody who is in post-conventional morality, for example, would say, no, he shouldn't steal the drug because, hey, if we treated everybody that way, I mean, that's terrible for Heinz, but if everybody did that, we'd have anarchy, right? So that's kind of beyond themselves. A good example for yes, right? So example of yes, yes, he should steal the drug because, hey, it's the druggist is charging twice what it costs to make it, or what did I say? 2,000 times what it costs to make it, or whatever. That's not ethically right. So he has a moral obligation to save his wife. Okay, so those are the 3 stages of moral development according to Kohlberg. We're going to talk about later another theorist that actually has issue with Kohlberg, and we'll talk about that later. But that's it for moral development.